I thought the Rhode Glazing Milk was my favorite Milky toner until I tried this. I've used Rhode as one of my go-to Milky toners for over a year now, and I absolutely love it for getting that glass skin glow. So I really just picked up the Haruharu as a more affordable way of getting the same result because I love the formula so much. With over 10 years of acne-prone skin, I've learned that I'm really careful about selecting products that actually work well within my routine without breaking me out, because I've gone through a lot of trial and error. At first glance, they both look really similar, but what really surprised me was which one I kept reaching for after a whole week of using both. So after using Rhode for over a year, I genuinely wasn't looking to find anything better. I just wanted it to be cheaper because this is expensive. I wasn't expecting this to replace Rhode. I just wanted something that would give me pretty much what this does. But the moment I opened the Haruharu, it already wasn't what I expected. It didn't feel like I'd bought a cheaper version. So this bottle is surprisingly weighty, and I'm shocked at how premium it feels. Like, it feels really expensive. I mean, this packaging is still quite nice to travel with, but this is the one that gave me the premium feel. Of course, the premium bottle doesn't actually have anything to do with the product inside, but it definitely made me excited to try it. And once I poured both of them out together, that's when the comparison got really interesting. So at first glance, they almost look identical. They both have a relatively thick body for a milky toner, but within seconds, they start behaving quite differently. This is where I started to understand why one person would choose one of these over the other. So the Rhode one, it starts off being really nice and creamy, but as you start rubbing it in, it genuinely just melts into this watery texture. It feels like a burst of hydration, but it feels very thin at the same time, and it absorbs almost instantly into the skin. Haruharu also spreads beautifully on the skin, but I would say that it keeps a lot more of its body as you spread it. It actually feels more like a really thin moisturizer as opposed to a milky toner. I can't even explain how good this feels on the skin. It feels like silk. It's actually crazy. But the texture is only part of the story, because how it feels for the first few seconds isn't actually what matters. Because a nice texture doesn't mean that your skin is going to feel moisturized afterwards. And this part is where you really start noticing the major differences. Okay, so I applied both exactly the same way, and I let them really sink into my skin. They both completely dry down on the skin. But I would say that the finish they do end up leaving behind is slightly different. And I genuinely mean that. It's not a major difference at all. So with Rhode, you get that glazed donut effect. And that is kind of Rhode's marketing anyways. What you see is what you get. It feels very fresh, like my skin is drinking in a lot of water. Can't explain it, but it just feels like your skin is getting a burst of hydration that is quite lightweight. Haruharu also gives a glow, but it is ever so slightly more subtle. But honestly, it's actually really hard to tell, so you can't really see the difference too much on camera. But in real life, the Rhode one definitely looks more glazed, and the Haruharu one looks slightly softer, like a softer sheen. But I did also notice that the Haruharu one tended to stay a little bit more comfortable on my skin for longer throughout the day. And that's when I wanted to kind of look a bit more into the ingredients, because that must be responsible for this. If you're enjoying this video, please do make sure that you like and subscribe and comment. So when I actually did some research on the lists, bear in mind, I'm not a chemist or anything like that, things started to make a lot more sense. Because on paper, they're both hydrating milky toners, but the way they're built is actually completely different. So with Rhode, it's all about hyaluronic acid. It uses multiple forms of hyaluronic acid and glycerin to kind of pull water into the skin and make it more hydrated. And that is why you quickly get that plumped, glazed donut type of appearance. And because it's paired with really lightweight emollients, it spreads really easily on the skin and sinks in really nicely. Haruharu, on the other hand, doesn't use hyaluronic acid at all. Instead, it hydrates through glycerin, glycols, and more of an oil-based structure. This explains why it feels less like a burst of water and more like a moisturizing, hydrating, silky type of feeling. And it also contains fatty acids, sunflower oil, squalene, shea butter, and a bunch more ingredients. And that's what gives it its nourishing but slightly slower absorbing type of feel. And then you also have the fermented ingredients like bifida, and those ingredients actually really help support your skin barrier and help calm things down and give more of a comforting skin feel. And because I use a lot of active ingredients for my acne, I really appreciate products that support my skin barrier long term and help my skin barrier recover. But even knowing all of that, ingredients still don't tell the full story, because sometimes what really matters is how these products work in your existing skincare routine. And if you're wearing these in the morning, there's probably one thing that's more important than the ingredients list, and that is how they interact with all of your other products that you put on top of your face. Because a product can feel amazing on its own, but then the second you start putting anything on it, like your sunscreen, your makeup, it starts pilling, it starts looking really bad. You no longer feel that the product is actually doing any good. Like, why am I going to use this? And with milky toners like this, that's sometimes where things can go wrong, especially if you're layering serums, active ingredients, moisturizers, sunscreens, makeup, which I actually do. So I wanted to see if these actually held up in a full-on morning routine. So I tested both underneath sunscreen, makeup, serums, and thankfully neither one pilled. They both sat beautifully underneath my makeup and really felt like they supported my skin and made my makeup look even smoother. But there was one small difference in terms of how they felt on my skin after everything was put on, especially if you have skin that leans more towards the acne-prone or congested skin, like me. So as someone with acne-prone skin, I'm always a bit cautious when it comes to richer, more milky products, because I've had experiences in the past where something feels really nice at first, but then after a few days, I wake up and I have a lot of congestion, breakouts, and I'm like, seriously, why? Why? And with products like this, it's not always obvious how your skin is going to react. It's also different for every single person. So that is what I was paying very close attention to. And thankfully, neither of these broke me out. And I was actually quite surprised about this one because it feels slightly thicker on the skin. Very, very slightly, but it didn't break me out at all. If anything, when I started using this, I got less breakouts. But as I said before, everyone's skin is different. And if you already know that you break out to certain ingredients, make sure that you have a look at the ingredients list and test patch first. So Rhode was my favorite milky toner, and the interesting part is I genuinely didn't expect that to change. But I kept finding myself reaching for the Haruharu one more. I felt like I wasn't really thinking about it when I was reaching for it, but for some reason, I just felt like this probably hydrated my skin more throughout the day, and it felt more heavy duty. And as I said, I use a lot of active ingredients, so I feel more comfortable using things that are going to protect my skin barrier even more. It's less expensive, and it actually felt slightly more soothing on my skin. Whereas the Rhode, don't get me wrong, the Rhode is amazing, and like I said, it was my favorite, but I do find that this actually moisturizes my skin slightly better throughout the day. So at the end of the day, my skin feels better if I've used the Haruharu one compared to the Rhode. Ever so slightly, but it's definitely noticeable. So I would say Rhode is slightly lighter than this, so I do really enjoy using this, especially if my skin doesn't feel like it needs a lot of hydration. And I have combination acne-prone skin, so normally I don't like anything too heavy on my skin. But as I said, the active ingredients sometimes really do make me require like slightly more hydration. And I would say this gives me a slightly more glazed donut feel. So if I was really lacking in the glass skin department, then I would probably use this one. The crazy thing is, if I could only repurchase one, I'd probably repurchase this one. And that's crazy to me because it's actually more affordable. I'm really glad I bought it. If you want the glazed donut type product, then I would pick this one. But if your skin is quite dry and your skin barrier is compromised and you're in the healing phase and you want long lasting moisture throughout the day, then I think this is the superior product. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment down below what you want me to film next. Bye!